In the past, I have a lot of experience public speaking through a translator, pausing with every phrase or sentence for the translator to translate for the audience. That is somewhat difficult. Now I'm faced with another difficult task, which is to take such a recording of such a session in multiple tracks and reduce it to a video that does not have pauses for translation. I do not have such a set of recordings right now of an actual translation of a public speech with pauses, but I do have, with the help of my son, a responsive reading which functions the same as a speaker speaking and then pausing for a translator to translate to the audience. So what I have is this. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked. Waiting for the translator. Set foot on the path of sinners. And this one, which takes the place of a translation. The project will be to put them together in a way that only the voice of the so-called translator will be heard in this video, and it will be a much shorter length than with all the pauses. So I shall open Shotcut. There. Here we are. Shotcut 2103. I'm going to make a new project. Okay. And this has created a folder which we see here, translation example, and I have the files on my desktop, so what I'm going to do is open the folder, and I'm just going to, I always put this here, a copy here, because I always want to have the source files separate, and while I'm at it I will create a new folder for the output and a new folder for my proxies. Go a lot faster with proxies, and I'd keep them together. So then I'm going to go into settings, proxy, storage, set. Go to example where I am, go there, and we will choose this. No. So I have my playlist and go to my sources, put them in the proxies. And I will want a timeline. And I'll use a video track for the speaker and audio track for the translator. And that's enough to make a save. I always do checkpoint saves and I number them. The habit of simply clicking the save button leads to a lot of activity on the Shotcut forum as people say, how do I fix the big mistake I made? I saved it before I realized it was a mistake. Well, you've just erased the chance of going backwards. So now if I make a mistake in the next stage, I can go back to here and so on. So I'm going to wait for the proxies to finish. Almost done. Proxy and preview scaling are on at 540p. This will make the session go much faster. And now I've just done it says I need another save. I've done something in the meantime. All right. And okay, it says that they're proxied. So I don't need to. All right, so the source will go, this is the speaker here, and my translation will go down here, and I typically would put them about like this. Why? Because the first step will be to line them up and make this a little more visible. All right, I'm a little bit easier to see now. Change a few settings. No external monitor. There we go. Now, when we go here, there we are. So, as I was saying, the reason I would do this is, look, I have an overlap right here. So I'm going to want to drag my files. I better zoom in a little bit, about the length of one segment, and am I in between? I don't need to be perfect for this, and you'll see why in a minute, but I need to be close so that I don't get totally confused. And let's see if I've got it close enough for general work. I've got the audio on both of them, and let's play it. Or set foot on the path of sinners.
Or set foot on the path of sinners.
Or sit in the seat of mockers.
Or sit in the seat.
Okay, that's enough there. Now, let's move this upward. Get it off the bottom. We don't need to see the details of the video. Okay. So I'm going to start making cuts and moves. So first I'm going to go here. I've got this big cursor so that you all watching the video will be able to see what I'm doing, but that means that I'm getting a little confused trying to find my cursor in the yellow circle. All right. So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to leave myself the space. I will cut that off later. Now I'm going to come here, and right in front of where I start, the translator starts talking, so to speak. I'm going to cut that one off. Whoops. Cut the wrong one. Well, that's why we have an undo button. There we go. Cut that. And I'm going to do a lift. Okay, I'm not going to use shortcut keys because then you can't see what I'm doing. All right. So I'm going to move this up, but I'm not going to move it up all the way. I could, but for the first one, it's going to be handled different. Let me go to the beginning of this clip. There we go. And, all right. Now I'm going to move everybody up. And because the reason for not moving everybody up was to give myself room to move things around. But, all right. I'm going to put him here for the moment because what I want to do is listen for a minute. Blessed is the man who does. That's about the right point. Only in the first segment, I'm going to make the translator late, and you will see why later. Just hold on to the thought. But now I need to see, okay, this translator goes to there. So right about there. I'm going to be on this one. And I'm going to split that. And then I'm going to come over here to where the main speaker starts again. And lift that. And then I've got my magnet on. So I'm going to just butt them together. That is not a nice transition. But what I will do is I will make one complete save of the entire thing with no transitions. And then if I decide I need transitions, I'll start scrunching things together in a later version that has transitions. Transitions are hard to undo, but they're easy to do. So it's easier to make the entire video without transitions and then add them than to say, oh, I don't like my translations, and try to take them out. So then we are going to come to the beginning here and go to the other track, split this track, and go to where the speaker starts to speak, the translator starts to speak, or in this case the response, but right about there. And cut this one. And lift. Let's check my work here. I'm going to add a filter to the entire track. I'm going to run up about 6 dB.
For set foot on the path of sync.
Are we lined up, or did we get totally out of sync? So this is the kind of testing you have to do.
For sit and seat of markers.
We're out of sync. Well, I found what I did wrong and I fixed it. I probably am including this in the tutorial. Mistakes and all. Because this is the kind of mistake that you'll make on your first video that attempts to do this same thing. You need to keep checking your work, and I caught this by checking. It sounded wrong. I didn't understand why it sounded wrong, and then I found it. So, now the first one was delayed, and that's why I left this tail here, empty tail. Second one's not going to be delayed. I could be hitting remove and it would shift automatically, but okay, now that's not going to work. Now is it? All right, so going to go right about there. Select this very tiny piece here. Is it selected? Yes. And lift it out of there. Okay, you've got a little delay there, but they're not going to be doing things at exactly the same time. So we'll fix it in the mix. See if we can fix it right here. All right. So let's get rid of this. What? Okay, I just got rid of something I shouldn't have gotten rid of. No? Okay. I'm going to bring this in. First, I'm going to bring it just to the point where they're, and line them up visually. See, I'm lining it up using this audio. And they're not the same, but I can see that emphasized first word. And I'm lining up the emphasized first word. And then snap to the beginning of this one, because double click will snap to the beginning. Now I'll go to this track, cut it at that point. And there's ways to move both tracks together. I'm not doing that in this video. That's for another video lesson. Now, let's do a sample of what this will look like. We'll start here. No audio on that, and there's no video on this.
Or set foot on the path of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers.
So there you see, the primary speaker is speaking, the translator's voice is heard. We're going to take a break in the video to save a lot of time, and when I come back, I'm going to show you what I did, why I did what I did in the very first segment, and then we'll finish up the video. It's now about 25 minutes later. It's working slow. There is a bit of a trick, you see, to doing it quickly. Go to the end of the last of the two, cut both. Make a nice straight cut across both. Now move whichever one I need to move, get my focus in the middle. Move whichever one I need to move to line the next clips up. So whoever I moved and has the short tail, that's who I'm going to line up the clip. That looks like a good place, and I'm going to cut it. Get rid of this. Now I'm going to double click this. Make sure I'm there. I was already there, but I'm line up at the front of this one and use lining up at the front of this one to line up the trim on this one. And put them both in place. You see, here is where we need to double click, because I've moved this away to line it up, and so I don't have a marker on this beginning. So I'll double click here. Now I have the marker on the beginning to line up my cuts or my splits. Almost an hour later, I'm at the end. But not really the end. I have a few things I want to do. I could simply export it with the audio off on this, and there's no video on that. And I can just go to export and say export. And go to I want to put it in my export folder. We'll call this simple audio. Yes, we do have enough room. So while that is exporting, we can get started on the fix. You'll remember I said that this was offset just in the first one for a reason. So what I really want to do is I want it to look and sound like those official videos of translated speeches at the United Nations, where at first you actually hear the speaker speaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter to the timeline. I could add a filter to the whole output, but that wouldn't help me. I want to add a filter to the timeline and have this on right here. I've been turning this off. I turned it off for the export of the previous one, but now I'm going to try one with it on. But before we do that, let's see what it actually sounds like and looks like the way we exported the first version. Let's see what we've got on this one.
Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or set foot on the path of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers.
Yes, I've got low quality video on my simulated translator. But I would like it to start off a little different, so there's not the sense that the speaker doesn't really exist. So I'm putting this filter on the this track of the timeline, and I'm going to go for the gain filter. Well, just turning the gain up or down is not going to help me, because what I'm going to use is the keyframes. There we go. So there's my keyframes. There we go. All right. Now, I need to pick a spot where I want, I think right about here, second phrase is where I want the original speaker to completely vanish. So I'm going to put a keyframe here, and I forgot to put one at the beginning, so we'll go back to the beginning and put one there. Okay. And up to this point, I want it to stay regular volume, so I'll put a keyframe there. Now I'm going to go to the next keyframe, the one I made there, and I'm going to filters, there we go, and I'm going to set the filter volume, the keyframed filter volume, at -69, which is essentially dead. I'm going to go to the end, and there's a keyframe there. I'm going to set that also to -69, and let's see what that sounds like. It drops the speaker down too quickly. Okay, so I'll go back to my filter this and filter hello, there we go, and filters, and say we'll set one about right about where it starts this. A little bit into it there. I'll set all right, I'm not going to fix everything, so I'm going to export this. Make sure it goes the right place this time. still not happy with it. What I'm going to do and that's just what I want. That you're going to hear the original speaker very faintly in the background. So if this is in English and French, you're going to hear very faintly the French speech in the background while you hear the English translation clear and up front, and not enough background to be interfered with, but you still hear the voice tones, the recognizable voice of the speaker. And I think that makes a better video of the event with its translation. That's just my aesthetic opinion. Okay, that's the way I would do it. Maybe take the original speaker down another 1 or 2 dB, and we're finished. We've made a video of the original event. It's now much shorter because the pauses are taken out of it. It took an hour to do this. It is going to be slow, tedious work to do this. But I believe you can get a very rewarding result. And if you want to hear the rewarding result, in a little pause after the end of this video, and if you're just here to learn Shotcut, you can cut off now, I don't mind. But if you stick around for a few silent seconds after the end of the video, you'll get to see and hear the final product. So, farewell to all of you. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel
of the wicked, or set foot on the path of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. But his delight is in the law of Yahweh, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, yielding its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither, and who prospers in all he does. Not so the wicked, for they are like chaff driven by the wind. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For Yahweh guards the path of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish.